The Scandals of Andrew Jackson, a Complex Legacy. Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, remains one of the most controversial figures in American history. Known for his fiery temper, military exploits, and polarizing policies, Jackson's life was filled with both heroism and scandal. His actions and legacy continue to spark debate, and his presidency was marked by numerous shocking and scandalous episodes. Here are 10 of the most noteworthy facts about this complex figure. Fact number 1. A tough childhood and tragic losses. Andrew Jackson was born on March 15, 1767, into a poor Scotch-Irish family in the Waxhaws region, straddling North and South Carolina. His father died shortly before his birth, and his early life was defined by loss and hardship. At the age of 14, Jackson became an orphan when his mother died of cholera while nursing American soldiers during the Revolutionary War. His two older brothers, Hugh and Robert, also died during the war, with Robert succumbing to smallpox after being captured by the British. These early tragedies left Jackson deeply scarred, contributing to his fierce personality. In 1791, he married Rachel Donaldson Robards, but their marriage was clouded by scandal as Rachel's divorce from her first husband had not been finalized, leading to accusations of bigamy. This attack on Rachel's honor infuriated Jackson, whose defense of her became a defining trait. His enemies used the scandal to question his character, but Jackson's loyalty to his wife and his willingness to duel anyone who insulted her became a symbol of his combative nature. Number 2. The infamous duel with Charles Dickinson. On May 30, 1806, Andrew Jackson participated in one of the most famous duels in American history. His opponent, Charles Dickinson, had insulted Jackson's wife, Rachel, calling her a bigamist, which triggered Jackson's demand for a duel. The two men met in Kentucky, where Dickinson was known as one of the best marksmen in the state. Dickinson fired first, hitting Jackson in the chest, breaking 2 ribs and narrowly missing his heart. Jackson, however, remained standing, taking aim and killing Dickinson with a single shot. Although severely wounded, Jackson refused to let doctors remove the bullet, which remained lodged in his body for the rest of his life. This duel solidified Jackson's reputation as a man of unyielding honor and temper, willing to risk his life to defend his family. Dickinson's death was controversial, with many criticizing Jackson's insistence on firing the fatal shot even after being gravely injured. Number 3. The British Execution Scandal. In 1818, during the First Seminole War, Jackson's execution of 2 British citizens, Alexander Arbuthnot and Robert Ambrister, ignited an international scandal. Arbuthnot, a traitor, and Ambrister, a former British Marine, were accused of aiding the Seminoles and inciting them to resist American expansion. Jackson convened a military tribunal, which sentenced the men to death, despite the fact that Ambrister's sentence had initially been reduced to a flogging. Jackson overruled the tribunal and ordered both men's execution, with Arbuthnot being hanged and Ambrister shot by a firing squad. This decision outraged the British government and sparked debates in the U.S. about Jackson's disregard for due process. Critics accused Jackson of acting like a tyrant, ignoring both international law and military procedure. Despite the uproar, Jackson defended his actions as necessary for national security, but the episode remains a stain on his military career. Number 4. The Indian Removal Act and the Trail of Tears. One of the darkest moments of Jackson's presidency was his signing of the Indian Removal Act on May 28, 1830, which authorized the forced relocation of Native American tribes from their ancestral lands in the southeastern U.S. to designated territory west of the Mississippi River. The most infamous consequence of this policy was the Trail of Tears, during which approximately 16,000 Cherokee were forced to march over 1,000 miles to Oklahoma, with as many as 4,000 dying from disease, starvation, and exposure. Jackson justified the act as a way to protect Native Americans from extinction due to increasing pressure from white settlers, but his critics saw it as ethnic cleansing. Although the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Cherokee in Worcester v. Georgia, 1832, Jackson reportedly defied the decision, saying, "John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it." The Trail of Tears remains one of the most tragic episodes in U.S. history, and Jackson's role in it has left an indelible mark on his legacy. Number 5. Jackson's involvement in the slave trade. Andrew Jackson's wealth was built on the backs of enslaved people. By the time of his death in 1845, Jackson owned more than 150 enslaved individuals who worked on his Hermitage plantation in Tennessee. His involvement in the slave trade extended beyond merely owning slaves. Jackson actively bought and sold slaves, frequently using profits from these transactions to fund his various endeavors. Historical records show that Jackson participated in slave auctions and profited from the institution of slavery, a fact that contrasts sharply with his image as a defender of the common man. Reports of Jackson's treatment of his slaves further tarnish his legacy, with accounts of harsh punishments and backbreaking labor. In one instance, Jackson posted a reward for the return of a runaway slave, offering $10 extra for every 100 lashes any person will give him, to the amount of 300. Number 6. Assassination attempt and unbelievable luck. On January 30, 1835, Andrew Jackson became the first U.S. president to survive an assassination attempt. Richard Lawrence, a mentally ill house painter, approached Jackson outside the Capitol building and fired 2 pistols at him from point-blank range. Miraculously, both guns misfired. Enraged, Jackson attacked Lawrence with his cane, striking him repeatedly before being restrained. The odds of both pistols misfiring were astronomically low, leading many to believe that Jackson's survival was a sign of divine intervention. The incident only strengthened Jackson's reputation for toughness, with some likening him to an indestructible force. Lawrence, when questioned, claimed that he was the rightful king of England and that Jackson was keeping him from his throne, further highlighting the bizarre nature of the attempt. Number 7. The Petticoat Affair, social scandal in Washington. Jackson's presidency was marked by the Petticoat Affair, a scandal involving the wife of his Secretary of War, John Eaton. Floride Calhoun, wife of Vice President John C. Calhoun, led a group of Washington socialites in ostracizing Peggy Eaton, accusing her of having had an affair with Eaton before they married. Jackson, whose own wife had faced similar accusations, fiercely defended Peggy Eaton, leading to a bitter divide within his administration. The scandal resulted in the resignation of nearly all of Jackson's cabinet, showcasing his loyalty but also his volatile leadership style. Number 8. Jackson's alleged role in Aaron Burr's conspiracy. Rumors have long persisted that Jackson had ties to Aaron Burr's infamous conspiracy in the early 1800s to create an independent nation in the western United States or Mexico. Burr sought military support for his plan, and Jackson was reportedly intrigued by the idea. Though no concrete evidence links Jackson directly to Burr's plot, the very suggestion that Jackson entertained treasonous ideas has added a shadow to his reputation. Some believe Jackson's association with Burr reflected his unorthodox and unpredictable nature. Number 9. The Censure of 1834, a presidential reprimand. Andrew Jackson's fight against the Bank of the United States led to one of the most dramatic moments in his presidency, the Censure of 1834. Jackson had vetoed the renewal of the bank's charter and withdrew federal deposits, causing an economic crisis. In response, the Senate, led by Henry Clay, passed a formal censure, the first of its kind against a sitting president. Jackson viewed the censure as a personal attack, and in 1837, his allies in the Senate succeeded in having the censure expunged from the record. This battle over the bank and the censure epitomized the deep divisions of Jackson's presidency, with his supporters hailing him as a champion of the people, while his detractors saw him as a dangerous demagogue. Number 10. A legacy of violence and controversy. Andrew Jackson's life was marked by violence and confrontation. Over his lifetime, Jackson was involved in more than 100 duels, brawls, and confrontations. Many of these were sparked by personal insults, and Jackson's willingness to resort to violence became a defining feature of his personality. His volatile temper and combative nature earned him the nickname Old Hickory, symbolizing his toughness and resilience. Jackson's military career, which included victories in the War of 1812 and the First Seminole War, only added to his image as a warrior. However, his legacy is deeply divisive. While his supporters celebrate him as a champion of the common man, his critics view him as a violent autocrat whose actions, particularly the Indian Removal Act, had devastating consequences for Native Americans and others.